The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Hope everybody had a nice weekend. Hope you watched some... Man, football really takes over on the weekends, doesn't it? College football on Saturdays, and then the NFL... You got to give it up to these guys. I mean, it's no wonder they're like 5 times the biggest sports league out there, because they basically start to capture America on Thursday nights with Thursday Night Football. And then obviously you've got all the games on Sunday. And then you've got Monday Night Football, which, you know, man, that's like 3 days of the week that genuinely they kind of own. That's pretty funny. Thursday, Sunday, and Monday. And they really, I don't know if I'd say they own them, but they definitely, you know, have a tremendous presence on 3 nights of the week. That's actually pretty impressive. By the way, couple show recommendations for you guys. I just finished watching The Perfect Couple on Netflix with Nicole Kidman and then, oh man, I'm blanking on Liev Schreiber. Was that his name? Liev Schreiber? Hold on. That is his name. Anyway, that was pretty good. And then if you get Apple TV, there's a series with Jake Gyllenhaal that's really good. It's called Presumed Innocent. And again, that's on Apple TV. That's actually really good. They did a really nice job on that. You know, the other thing that's interesting is both Apple TV and Netflix have like some 9/11 related stuff as of late. I find that interesting. They've got like 9/11 inside the president's war room, although that was from 2021, but they seem to have brought it back. Maybe that was all just because of 9/11 anniversary last week. But anyway, I am working on the 9/11 stuff. Man, there's that can of worms has definitely been opened back up. So we'll get into all that. Anyway, all right. So Sunday looks like there was another, you know, assassination attempt on President Trump. I did want to talk about that a little bit because it actually kind of, you know, you've got to scope all this stuff up, by the way. I'm telling you, you know, the simple, you know, narrative and response and thought of what is taking place. I'm just telling you that's not the case. It's just not, you know, like, I don't know. I don't know how else to really convince you guys. Actually, I'm not even trying to convince you, but you know, I guess the only way I can make you open to that is, you know, by continuing to, you know, just share examples and again, deep, shallow dive into stuff and break things down and, you know, basically kind of show you that, okay, there could be more to it. So this second, you know, assassination attempt on President Trump that took place at his golf course, you know, this one's goofy as well. And it doesn't make a lot of sense. The guy that, you know, was responsible for doing it, I'm going to play some things for you. Man, I'm telling you guys, if there was a podcast I would recommend listening to right now, and I listen to several, I really do. I try to listen to several on a daily basis practically. But if there was one I would recommend, it's Candace Owens. It really is. She has kind of been interesting to me lately because I feel like she's kind of, you know, she made her name and reputation on being like this strong, young black woman that's a Republican and that's a conservative. But you know what? She's kind of like calling a spade on Republicans and conservatives as well. And I give her a lot of respect for that. I really do. She's basically going against all the other, you know, right-wing people that she was pretty aligned with on things. And that includes Trump, you know, like I wouldn't say she's going against Trump. Like I know she's going to vote for him, but I will say she's calls out a lot of his BS and a lot of Team Trump's BS. And more importantly, a lot of the people that are, just up his ass, like their BS. And I love that because I feel like I do the same. I mean, I really do. I feel like I do the same, but not on. I mean, she's good, man. She's definitely better than me. She analyzes this stuff, really, really well. And so I wanted to analyze the things about this shooter, this knucklehead who tried to, take a shot at Trump on his golf course. And ironically, yesterday, while I was doing my steps, getting a run in, I listened to her podcast episode about it. And man, there was a section that was really good. And she played an opening clip from this guy from 2021 or 2022. So let's give this a listen.
Tell me who you are and why are you here?
56 from the U.S., from North Carolina originally, so live in Hawaii now, so flew all the way from Hawaii here. So the question as far as why I'm here, to me, a lot of the other conflicts are gray, but this conflict is definitely black and white. This is about good versus evil. This is a storybook, any movie we've ever watched, this is definitely evil against good. I mean, we're battling a situation here where, the Ukrainians and the rest of the world are caring and kind and generous and unselfish and take care of one another. And it's just a matter of, we need to stand up for that. That is the most important thing in the world, is just to show human beings that we're kind and we're caring and that we take care of one another and that the world is united so that we feed each other and make sure that, we all move forward as one collective whole unit. So, we feel the pain of one country's failure and their conflicts, and we enjoy the successes of other countries that are doing good, and we all work together. And for some reason, Russia does not grasp this concept that we're all one unit, and we have to get along and work together and be normal human beings. This is 2022. We have to work together. It seems asinine that we have a leader in a country that does not understand the concept of being unselfish and being generous and being kind and just the basic moral values that are required by human beings these days. It blows my mind.
All right, so real quick, that was the guy Sunday that they arrested, Ryan Wesley Routh, and I'll let Candace fill what you just listened to.
So to be clear, he is sitting down with Newsweek because he was recruiting volunteers for the International Legion, bringing up the values involved in supporting Ukraine against somebody radicalized. Now, if you are the deep state and you are paying attention to these sorts of things, people that believe this, right, committing themselves so much they're willing to fly halfway around the world to commit their lives to recruiting people into this war.
So really quick, so this dipshit flew across the world in 2022 and was interviewing with this organization to try and garner civilian support to go fight the war in the Ukraine against the Russians. So he basically was taking it upon himself to try and drum up support, right? All right, so I'm going to play some more of Candace's analysis because it's really good. And by the way, if you've never listened to Candace, and you don't know anything about her, she's super she's very cheeky, as the Brits say, meaning that she kind of is a smart ass about a lot of things, but in the best possible way. So if she says something and you're like, what? Chances are she's just, being coy or being facetious about it and just kind of making fun of it. But then she'll let the cat out the bag like she does here.
This is a perfect person for you to attempt to radicalize further because he's already a radical. He's already a radical, okay? It's already insane. What he is doing, what he is speaking about is completely insane, and he has been radicalized by the mainstream media narrative. Yes, we are playing with World War III, but they're not playing. They have decided that they want to go to World War III. That is planned.
All right, I'm going to interject a couple things along the way, but I will put an episode together that builds on that interview I did with Demetrius Flautis, Professor Flautis, because I do want you guys to hear the perspective of Professor Jeffrey Sachs and then John Mearsheimer. But really what Candace talks about in this breakdown of this guy who is like super pro-Ukraine, potentially wanting to assassinate Trump, you look at it, it's like, why this guy? And, obviously Trump has come out and said many times he would end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. He'd have that war ended, before he even is sworn in, blah, blah, blah. So remember that war right now basically took the place of the 20-year war we were in with Afghanistan. So the money machine literally transferred from Afghanistan, which by the way started on 9/11. Remember that? Piece all these things together. Seriously, like connect these dots. You had 9/11 that led to the 20-year war. 20-year war ends in Afghanistan, terribly, by the way, and we'll talk about that another time. And then from there, you go right back into Ukraine. And so the military-industrial complex and the money-making printing machine, doesn't miss a beat.
And when you get up there and you say, no, we're not doing that, I'm going to stop this and I'm going to negotiate an end to this, you are getting in the way of the most evil cabal of people whose plans you accidentally interrupted back in 2016. Like I said on Friday's episode, their candidate, the neocons, the war class and military-industrial complex, was Hillary Clinton. Okay? The Never Trump movement, they got on board. The fake conservatives pretending that they were actually conservative, but just morally had to get behind Hillary Clinton. Oh, it was because then, way back then, they had decided that they wanted to go to war with Iran and and Russia. Okay?
All right. So she is absolutely right about this. Hillary absolutely is like a war hawk. She really is. And, again, I do think in 2016, that was the plan. I think if she had won, we would have probably escalated things in Russia, Ukraine much quicker than it took. And who knows what would have happened in Iran. But that war concept, again, you've got to rise above and think about war as a business, okay? Don't think about war as, fighting. Think about war as purely a business.
Russia. They kept throwing that at Trump all the time because Russia was already on their agenda, as was Iran. Hillary Clinton was supposed to be president for the next 4 years, and Hillary Clinton has never met a war that she didn't like, okay? She's a murderer for all intents and purposes because of all of the slaughters and wars and deaths that you can directly attribute to her time as Secretary of State, okay? Think about Gaddafi, think about her laughing hysterically, okay? These people love war. There is a bloodlust amongst the elite class. Their families are enriched by war. You have another layer of people who just love the money that they make from war. War is a way for them, people who can't create anything, who just steal and rob, to reset. These people want a global reset. What better way to do it than after a world war? What happens after a world war? You redraw boundaries. You decide that this country is now 10 times bigger. This one is 10 times smaller. You smash their economy, okay? You get them on a debt system.
I'm telling you, this girl is a beast. She is absolutely a beast. Everything she talked about right there about smashing the economy, getting people on a debt system. She brought up Libya and Gaddafi and Hillary laughing about when they captured Gaddafi. Again, I am going to do that episode. I'm telling you, all of this stuff, regime change, what's going on in Venezuela right now. I think we've talked about this a little bit and we've touched on it in a few different episodes. But, what's taking place in Colorado with these Venezuelan gangs and all that, I haven't looked into it enough to say it's real or it's not real. But what I am saying is it's very interesting that that's taking place while at the same time you've got this, fight for power with Maduro, who is the incumbent kind of socialist leader of Venezuela. And again, here's the thing. I don't know enough about Maduro to say if he's good or bad. But what I do know is that Venezuela has the number one oil reserves in the world. Okay? So Venezuela has a shit ton of oil that we want, that the United States wants. That's what I do know. So, you've got to factor all that stuff in together. You really do. And again, like I said, rise up to 30,000 feet. Think of war as a business. Don't think of it as fighting.
You say, you're going to play with us. We're the dollar. You do that when things aren't going your way. You can't do things the right way, so you do them the wrong way. All you have to do is have bigger guns. You have to be willing to go to war. You have to be willing to be immoral. You have to be willing to be satanic. You have to be willing and have a lust for children and innocent women and children dying. And to be very clear, these people do. He doesn't understand that they want somebody like Nikki Haley, okay? Nikki Haley is high on war, okay? This woman was snorting lines of Ukraine and Israel for breakfast when she was running.
That is hilarious. Snorting lines of Israel and Ukraine for breakfast when she was running. And she was. I'm telling you, I know a few of you think I have it out for Nikki Haley. I could care less about Nikki Haley, but her agenda is so obvious to me. If you follow her Instagram, it's so obvious. She is just a complete warmongering hawk. She just got back from visiting Taiwan and basically talking all about how Taiwan, we need to protect Taiwan. We need to make sure China doesn't, invade them and take them over. That's not really fair. Meanwhile, you've got Biden and Trump, by the way, and every president for the past 50 years who's recognized a one China policy and who's recognized, including Obama, by the way, who's recognized the fact that they agree that China is one entity, meaning that even though Taiwan is, a slightly separate, I guess, nation state, they're still part of China. But we're going to sell them weapons. We're going to sell them tons of weapons. And obviously, there's also a big thing with the semiconductor industry being headquartered there with Taiwan Semiconductor Company there. So, there's all that. But again, the warmongering stuff is really in three areas of the world right now. Russia, Ukraine, you've got the Middle East with Gaza, Palestine, all that, and then the potential of, Taiwan and China. But when it comes to Nikki Haley,
that woman spoke more about Ukraine and Israel on stage than she spoke about America. That is what they need. They need a candidate that is going to say, no matter what, do whatever you need, take as much money as you want, enslave the American economy forever. Let's go to war. And she was supposed to be their candidate. But Donald Trump forgot to die 64 days ago when he was on stage.
All right. So as far as that goes, I don't know. I think there's that whole thing, again, like I said many times, the whole thing was goofy. It was weird. That kid, I'm not talking about the one from Sunday. I'm talking about the young kid. That just made no sense to me that he even was able to get into that position to take that shot. And then, like I said, I don't know if I've said this before or not, but I will tell you this. If any entity, quote unquote entity, wanted Trump dead, I think he'd be dead. I do. I think that if they wanted him gone, they have all the means and resources to do it. But regardless, I will agree with Candace in terms of, let's say something had happened to Trump and he wasn't able to go. I do think Nikki Haley would have been the one that was basically chosen to represent the Republicans. And by the way, I mean, it's going to take 4 years to see if this plays out, but I could see in 4 years it being J.D. Vance, Nikki Haley. I think I said that on the I don't know. Did I say that? Maybe I said that the other day when I predicted Kamala's going to win. Yeah, actually, I think I did say that. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think that in 4 years, a combination of Nikki Haley, maybe JD Vance. I guess we'll see what happens with JD Vance over the next 4 years. But definitely Nikki Haley. She's in the rotation. She is absolutely in the rotation because she does whatever they tell her to do. And she's a warmonger, and she will support this military-industrial complex money machine.
And a lone shooter shot at him. He forgot to die. He turned his head. That wasn't their plan. He was supposed to be dead. And then what was going to happen was they were going to tell you a perfect story about why that person, as every camera was trained on him, cameras that hadn't even been there, cameras that don't even normally broadcast Donald Trump's rallies, were all broadcasting that day, miraculously. So people were supposed to watch him die and then feel fury. And then what was going to happen? They were going to tell us that Iran did it. Maybe they're going to tell us that Russia did it. Maybe, but I think they told us afterwards, well, we were hearing that Iran wanted to do this. And don't forget, he killed Soleimani, so it makes sense that they traveled out here to Pennsylvania, to Butler, Pennsylvania, and put this random kid on a roof who was once in a commercial for BlackRock and whatever. His parents are involved in the psychologist community. I'm sorry, just accept the narrative that this was done by Iran. You don't believe me? And then Americans are supposed to be on board. Yes.
I am telling you, she is just fearless. She really is. And she brings up a lot of things. Now, I'll say this. If you don't like it or if you don't agree with it, that's totally fine. Honestly, that's totally fine. But you know what? Just listen to it. Just open your mind to listening to, someone like her. Because I'm telling you, you really do have to trust me on this. If you actually think that I'm nuanced in my analysis, trust me when I say, and again, I don't agree with everything she says. I absolutely don't. She's super Christian. She's super, Jesus, all that. That's not my cup of tea. But when it comes to this type of analysis, again, think about this. Actually, I'll leave it with this and I'll play the rest of what she said. Think about this. Most of the Republicans right now, and if you're a Republican, correct me if I'm wrong, most of you guys and most of your talking heads, nobody is poking a hole in the nonsense that is Nikki Haley. They're not. They're almost being like, oh, bring her on board, give her a role. You know what I mean? Whereas with Candace, she calls a spade on that, and on that woman in particular.
I just watched President Trump die. I'm on board with war. And lo and behold, Nikki Haley had announced, Nikki Haley, who had just recently dropped out of the race and ceded to Trump, had announced that she was going to speak at the RNC. Right before this, she announced she was going to speak at the RNC. And what was going to happen? Well, if Trump was shot and had actually died, it was going to be an open convention. It's going to be an open convention, which means they were going to be able to pick. And of course, it would have just made sense that they picked the candidate that was just behind Trump. And that candidate was Nikki Haley. So again, he was supposed to be dead. Nikki Haley would have then been forced as the nominee. Nikki Haley, who was snorting lines of Ukraine and Israel and war, would have been the Republican nominee.
All right. I did want to play that full little segment of hers, which basically, talked about this knucklehead assassination attempt and then got into all that. Because again, I think she brings up really good things to think about. And as we move forward over the next 50 days or so, the things that I think we should keep an eye on is, let's see what happens in Russia and Ukraine. 1, let's see what happens in Gaza between Hamas, Palestinians, Israelis. 2, let's see what happens between Taiwan and China. Does that thing kind of, start to become more of, right now I consider that like a fringe topic. Not many people even know anything about what's going on over there, but let's see if that percolates and comes to the front burner from the back burner. Venezuela, we've got the situation with Maduro there. And the reason I key on Venezuela is because of their oil reserves. And there's another thing I found, which actually was very interesting, which talked about the population of countries versus their oil. gosh, I keep forgetting what I've read and what I haven't read. Anyway, I'll bring that into the mix as well. But so Venezuela, that's another topic. And anyway, all of this stuff, again, like I said, in particular when it comes to this concept of war, I will say, even though the term the military industrial complex has been around for 60 years, if not more, when Dwight D. Eisenhower said it in his speech, it's really only honestly, probably the past 2 years that it's become a known thing. And obviously everyone from, I will give RFK Jr. a lot of credit for bringing that to the mainstream and bringing that to the forefront, but then you've got a ton of people that talk about it. And Candace is one that talks about it. Tucker Carlson talks about it. Joe Rogan talks about it. I mean, these are all considered, I guess, well, they're not considered. Although, you know what? Jon Stewart talks about the military-industrial complex, so I'll give it up for that. I'm trying to think who else that might be what is considered liberal or Democrat, who talks about. I'll see if I can come up with a cumulative list of people that are really like banging that drum. But anyway, I'm gonna leave you with a minute of an amazing cover song that is like totally trending on TikTok. This is a banger. This truly is a banger. These guys do a really, really nice job with this cover. And it's a band, or I should say a duo called Royal Otis, and they're covering the Cranberries song Linger. I love this. I really do. God, I get addicted to songs and then I play them like 20,000 times in a row and I blare them and share them with you guys. So anyway, call a spade. Royal Otis, Linger.
If you could return, don't let it burn, don't let it fade. I'm sure I'm not being rude, but it's just your attitude, and it's tearing me apart, and it's ruining every day. I swore I would be true, and honey, so do you. So why were you holding her hand? Is it just the way we stand? Were you lying all the time? Was it just a game to you? But I'm in so deep. You know I'm such a fool for you. You got me wrapped around your finger. Do you have to let it linger? Do you have to? Do you have to? Do you have to let it linger?
The ending was terrific.
This episode was brought to you by the new book Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.